could raise taxes on people. That's not the way that corporations are people, my friend. We can raise taxes on, of course they are.
There's a lot of talk in the Occupy Wall Street movement about ending corporate personhood. The problem with this demand is that the legal status of corporate personhood is just the icing on the cake. In a capitalist society, corporations are much more like people than people are. Capital is the active subject, and people its object. This is what Marx means by subject-object inversion. Rather than people being the active agents of the social order, it is the objective logic of the market that dominates subjects. Blind economic laws rule, and people obey. Money becomes more powerful than life. Corporations become people and exert more power in society than individuals or even social movements. While people run around in the street with signs begging the system to take notice of them, the cold logic of capital becomes the active agent in society, using the body of the worker like a passive, expendable commodity, subordinating societies, governments, and even nature itself to the impersonal motives of profit. The crazy thing is that this objective world is still just the product of our own creation. We actively reproduce it every day. This is what makes Marx's critique of capitalism so powerful. The world we live in, despite the incredibly disempowering structure of our own situation, is always only the result of our own actions, and we do have the ability to collectively change it. But in order to exercise such collective power, we must break with the capitalist mode of production. In case you were wondering, Subjectivist Island and Barter Island don't exist. They are abstractions. Now, every theory needs abstractions. We must sift through a world of data and identify the broad contours and important categories that define reality. Subjectivist and Barter Islands are ideal abstractions, that is, abstractions that exist only in the minds of philosophers. Marx makes a different kind of abstraction, a real abstraction. A real abstraction is not made by philosophers arbitrarily leaving out parts of social reality. A real abstraction is made by reality itself. In a capitalist society, human labor becomes abstract. In the caste system of feudalism, where people were born into certain types of work and there were strict divisions between castes, there was no such thing as labor in general or a worker in general. But in a capitalist society, labor loses all of these specific features. Capital treats us like anonymous digits in a profit calculator, moving us from place to place in the search for profit. Our labor becomes abstract labor. We become not peasants, knights, or artisans, but workers in general. Marx's theory of value is based on this real abstraction that is made by the mode of production itself, not the minds of philosophers. This doesn't mean that the perspective of marginalism comes from nowhere. Marginalism comes from a real existing standpoint within capitalism, the standpoint of the atomized individual contemplating commodities. This standpoint is real. We experience it every day at the grocery store, but it is an incomplete perspective because it leaves out the entire world of social production that puts commodities on the shelves and money in our pockets. This perspective is the perspective of commodity fetishism, in which the social power of our own labor takes the form of inherent properties of objects. But in times of economic crisis, we see cracks in the walls of this reality. Old ways of thinking lose their relevance. Crises are a time when the economic laws of capitalism are exposed, not as eternal, universal laws as the bourgeois economists would want us to think, but as the particular laws of this time, laws that we might be able to overthrow. As the law of value breaks down, as people start to question the order of things, the capitalist state must enter the picture, replacing the failing law of value with the brutal law of the state. The charming, freedom-loving world of the market apologists is revealed for what it really is, an exploitative order based on violence. Like a schoolyard bully, a system is always the most violent when its weakness is exposed. When the law of value breaks down, the politics begin. Subjects must become active. This can be the politics of the ruling class as it scrambles to reassert the status quo, or it can be the politics of radical movements that posit the possibility for new social orders.